IdahoSports.com's 20th anniversary season and presentation of the 2017 IdahoSports.com Football Preview Show is brought to you in part by the Idaho Army National Guard. Defend what matters most. By Cable One, the face of fast. By your local Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. And by Project Filter, Idaho fights tobacco.
Welcome to the IdahoSports.com 2A statewide preview show. Will Hoenike, Matt Harris, Paul Kingsbury here. We're at Mountain View High School in Meridian, Idaho, the home of the defending 5A state champs, but we're here to talk about the 2A classification.
Yes,
pretty good 2A league down here in the Treasure Valley, but we're going to talk about them all. But let's start with the state bracket. State brackets from last year, brought to you by our friends at Cable One, high-speed internet, the face of fast. The St. Mary's Lumberjacks, District 1. What a season those guys had last year. Is they had their tests along the way, but they passed every one of them en route to a state championship when they beat Declo down in Holt Arena for that state title.
They played a difficult schedule to prepare them for that moment, and they blew through it. 12-0, perfect season, State champions. That game, if you just look at the score from that state championship, it'd be 31-8, and you'd think, oh, they just blew through Declo. That wasn't the case. It was until the final few moments of that game.
Couple late touchdowns,
couple of turnovers by Declo, and they able to run it up and get it to that point, so that they won the state title. Yeah. But yeah, they lost a few players from last year's team, but they're still a very good football team. But it was a great run for them last season with head coach Craig Teft.
Yeah, last year Will and I actually went to we went up there.
That was a blast.
For the playoff game against Melba.
Yeah, at St. Mary's.
Right,
that was a lot of fun. We stood on the back of a truck. Paul and I, over the years, we have broadcasted from some weird places. We've been on top of a paint scaffolding.
2A. St. Mary's, 2A. We always seem to get the interesting places in the 2As.
True.
Yeah.
Scissor lift in Wilder last year. Scissor lift that broke
Lighthouse.
on us.
Lighthouse.
Down at Lighthouse Christian.
Broke on us.
So we've been some interesting locations, but we did it with the help of a local business there in St. Mary's.
Yes.
We did it from the back of a truck, and man, beautiful fall afternoon up there, big crowd and a fun game.
Buell Trucking? Is that who it was? It was Buell Trucking that provided that flatbed for us, and great times. And we had someone from up there, Lucas Rose, I believe, got in contact and said, "Yeah, come do it. I'll hook you up. We'll get the truck." We showed up. Truck was there. It was fantastic. So you're right, though. Going back to the actual preview, St. Mary's did lose a lot. They lost a lot, but I don't think they lost that much to really put them back. Back a few steps. I think that as the season goes along, we're going to see that they have guys coming up to take those spots, and they might be contenders again.
2A football is just so much fun. The whole town shows up. You're not playing the team, you're playing the whole town, and that's really what it is in 2A football. It's just so much fun. 2A football, small school, it's passionate, it's fun.
Especially in the Central Idaho League, and that's where we'll start up in District 1 and 2, and we're not putting them above anyone else, saying their fans are more passionate or better. But you go into, it's a 3-team league. You go into Orofino, you go into Grangeville, or you go into St. Mary's on a Friday night.
Yeah.
There's, where you're going to find people, and that's at the
it's
football
a home
field
game. Yeah, absolutely.
For the big game. And let's start with St. Mary's. You talked about all the people they lost, starting with 2A State Player of the Year, Nate Masterson. Man, what a great player he was. But they won a lot of games last year by some decent margins, which gave Coach Teft and his staff some opportunities to let other kids get in the game. So you got, you don't have a ton of starters back per se, but you got a lot of kids who saw field time.
Yeah, and having those kids see a lot of quality minutes and quality time, that helps so much for the future of your program. And being a team that's good enough to do that, it can go either way. You can either be good enough to do that, or you can be so bad that you're losing by so much that you put in guys like me when I played in high school basketball. Oh, you can't lose the game for us, Kingsbury. Get on in there.
Yeah. Forgot you were on the team.
Yeah, how are you? So, but you're right. I mean, getting those kids quality minutes, it only helps your program. And so that's where I think the St. Mary's, especially since we're talking about this conference, again, that's going to help them. I think they're going to be, we're going to be looking at them late in mid-November.
And it's not like all the key figures from last year's state championship run are gone either. They bring back all-state offensive lineman Parker Telford to the crew to really anchor that offensive lineman. Exactly, and he's gonna bring some of those new guys who are in there and really get them going. They'll look to him as a leader there. And one of the main things that we've done here in this preview show today is we've talked about how many coaches have told us that their X factors to success this season is going to depend on the play of the offensive line.
Yep.
And
A lot of them.
probably a lot the same here, I would assume, with St. Mary's. And I think that, having those players there, like a Parker Telford, who has been there before, it's certainly going to set him up well.
Right. And I
He's
think
got some kids up there that maybe didn't play every snap last year, but he's got some big kids.
Yes.
He's got some big, strong kids to plug in up there.
It's not just big, they're physically strong. They hit the weight room and it shows.
Yeah, Grangeville, I think, is watching this going, yoo,
Yeah.
look at us. And Grangeville's another one of those teams, returning Noah Kashmitter. A great guy to anchor your defense around. Defense wins championships. And Grangeville, they're always tough. They're always tough.
Yeah, he might be, you talk about Noah Kashmitter, he might be one of the best 2A players in the state, period. Anywhere. Just an anchor of that defense and anchor of that team. New head coach Jeff Adams. He was on the staff last year, but he and Jeff Lindsley, the former head coach, basically just swapped spots because of two of Jeff Lindsley's sons actually play football at the College of Idaho in Caldwell. He wanted the ability to come down here on Saturday and watch his sons play. What a novel concept. Huh?
Priorities, I love it.
But
Being a father,
St. Mary's, you got Grangeville. They've won a couple of state championships recently. So, there may only, and Orofino's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
So there may not be a ton of teams in there, but it should be a pretty competitive conference.
It always feels like when you get to the state tournament, whichever, and sometimes based on the way that it's set up, all three teams make it to the state play-in round, but you can count on at least two of those teams moving past the first round, if not all three. Orofino is a team you can't overlook by any means. Galen Kuykendall not too long ago had his team in the state semifinals with a big run. I mean, just football, it's very, very a tough football conference, the CIL. Even if they don't have many conference games, it's still very, very competitive.
Who do we see? Are we in agreement? We think St. Mary's probably gets that number 1 seed?
Yeah.
Certainly not a given.
I think so. Grangeville's going to push them, though. Grangeville's absolutely going to push them. I think they're going to have some. The nice thing with having Jeff Adams in as head coach is he's been there. He already knows everyone. You don't have to really install a new system or anything like that. But I think they're going to push St. Mary's, but I do think St. Mary's will end up taking it.
Yeah, and I think we'll find out on October 6th when Grangeville goes to St. Mary's. That's going to be a great game.
Yeah, whichever team was the home one in that team, that was going to be the one that, had that game circled. They're coming here for this game. We're going to take a quick break here on IdahoSports.com to a preview show. And when we come back, we're going to go around the rest of the state. We're going to go to Eastern Idaho, Treasure Valley here, District 3, go down to District 4. We'll talk about it all when we come back to the 2A State Preview Show on IdahoSports.com.
In the Army National Guard, you'll serve part-time to be ready to respond at all times. You'll train to master the skills and equipment used to keep the nation secure and its enemies on the run. You'll learn to be a leader and a member of a team. Become part of a time-honored tradition of vigilance and selfless service. Find your adventure at NationalGuard.com.
The future is now, with the next generation of internet speed. Giga One from Cable One. With up to 1,000 megabits per second, now there's almost no limit to what you can do and how fast you can do it. So create now. Connect now with unsurpassed speed that lets you be you. Why wait for tomorrow? Giga One from Cable One. The future is now. What you waiting for?
Welcome back to IdahoSports.com. Will, Matt, Paul, 2A State Preview Show here. We're at Mountain View High School in Meridian. Time to go to Eastern Idaho now, talk a little bit about District 5 and District 6, along with the other conferences and districts here in the state of Idaho. Let's go first of all to the Nuclear Conference. Last year, Firth won the division 7-2 overall, 4-0 in the conference. And Matt, I want to start with you. When we look at these teams, Firth bringing back Remington Chapman, talented running back. Then you have North Fremont. They bring back their big running back, Sawyer Dye, Conference Offensive Player of the Year. Which of those running backs has a bigger season this year?
I'm going to go with Hawks, and I think there's a bunch of players here that could have a really big season. You look at the Nuclear Conference; it's a very, very tough conference, a very tight conference. You look at Firth, for example. I mean, with Chapman, he is very, very explosive. Can he find the space? Can he have holes created for him on offense? I think Chapman is a very good player. I think Garrett Hawks can also play very, very efficient in that North Fremont run first, run second, run third, and run on fourth down as well. I mean, they're just going to keep coming after you. I mean, both of those players, very, very explosive players that can have have a big impact on their teams. I mean, it's going to be fun to see them play this year.
As we've done the other previews today, I'm sure you've gone and watched all of them as well. But one thing that we've seen as a trend in Idaho is a lot of graduation, a lot of guys not coming back, a lot of youth. The 2A classification, there's a lot of returning all-conference, all-state players across the board, and especially, in these conferences over there in eastern Idaho. I mean, you got quarterbacks and running backs and offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and so you've got a lot of experience coming back. So, do you see much of a change since you've got a lot of the same players coming back?
Yeah. Well, you see as well, running back Sawyer Dye for North Fremont. He was All-State last year for North Fremont. He is an explosive player as well. There goes some papers down there.
See you later.
But he's a player you have to watch out for as well. I mean, he can turn one at any moment. Just so much talent coming back here in this 2A ranks. I mean, you just kind of hit on it. Just seems like there's just more here in this classification than the other ones that we've talked about already.
In the Nuclear Conference, 5 teams, 3 of them won at least 6 games last year. Firth, North Fremont, West Jefferson, 7, 6, and 6 respectively. Ryrie wasn't too far off at 4 and 5, and Ryrie returns a couple of all-conference offensive linemen in Brighton Harris and Matthew Johnson. Always a good building block to be strong on that offensive / defensive line.
And you look at Garrett Jensen and Britton Moon that are they're back as well on the defensive side of things. And Ryrie was a good turnaround season for them, 4 and 5 last year after having a couple of 1-win seasons prior to that. And really not a ton of football tradition at Ryrie. And Jim Newton, the head coach there, is getting it turned around slowly but surely. And it's been the huge thing that we've talked about. Well, who you bring back on the line? That seems to be a big factor here. Yep. And it's no different in the Nuclear Conference.
Paul, what about the Southeast Idaho Conference? You got Aberdeen, went 8 and 3 last year, but just 2 and 2 in conference. That was when you figure in Bear Lake and you figure in West Side,
right?
That was a pretty good conference last year.
It's always a good conference. I mean, West Side, you never really hear much, but they're always good. When the end of the season there, Aberdeen, they've been a powerhouse now for a very long time, and I don't see that changing a lot. Bear Lake, great team last year. Coach Messerly is just doing a great job down there in Montpelier. Beautiful area down there too. Mm-hmm. But lucky guy. So if you have a winning football team and great scenery, all the best. So
win-win. Yeah,
that conference, looking at it, you look at it and go, you know what? There's a lot at the top and a lot at the bottom. But I could honestly see a semifinal 2 state championship team coming out of that conference.
Absolutely. It's a loaded conference once again. Aberdeen brings back a lot of talent. You look at Dexton Wallace, Mitchell Spence, all-state offensive linemen, and then you pair an all-state running back with them in Carson Beck, and they run a lot of that double wing formation, and they make it tricky for you. I mean, they're going to be a very talented team. You've also got linebacker Bryson Foster and defensive back Victor Clausen, who are all-state as well. And they also play on the offense, so they're going to be a talented team. West Side is always good. Their coach Tyson Moser says, we're going to start out slow. The goal is to be better towards the end of the season. They always are every single year. Hard-nosed, smash-mouth football. Bear Lake as well. I mean, they went to the state semifinals last year. Lost a few skill position players, some players on the line, but they bring a lot back with quarterback Avery Carlson and the Peterson twins, Hayden Peterson and Houston Peterson. A lot of opportunities for them to be successful again. It's a tough conference up there.
Well, who wins these 2 divisions?
Oh, that's a good question. I was with Bear Lake. I want to throw this one in. You bring back a quarterback and a wide receiver, that tandem that are used to each other. The timing's down, and a running back. Bear Lake's gonna be tough. But I'll pick it up first since I'm talking right now, and I cut you off.
No, you're good.
Used to it.
I'm
Story of my life.
I'm looking at Aberdeen. I think Aberdeen's going to come out up on top with Bear Lake, a very, very close second. It could even swap. At the end of the season, it could be right now. I have Aberdeen 1, Bear Lake 2.
I've got the same there. Aberdeen taking it over Bear Lake. West Side, I still think they'll finish probably 3rd, and then Malad and Soda Springs there battling for that 4th spot. Soda Springs, by the way, they bring back a lot of players all conference, which is good for them because they haven't had a lot of football success in recent years. Cliff Garbutt's getting it turned around.
A little overcast all of a
feels
sudden
good.
Here. Let's enjoy it as we move now to District 3 here in the Treasure Valley. New Plymouth, a team that brings back 3 starting offensive linemen, more than that maybe even 4. but 2 running backs that combined for 1,500 yards. They do have to replace their quarterback. They do have to replace All-State wide receiver Cody Fernley. So there are some really nice pieces there, but still some work to be done for the Pilgrims.
They have themselves a great offensive and defensive line to build around, though. And if you've got those 2 things in a 2A classification, you're ahead of the game. And so at that point, you bring back skill players. They've got Tegan Gross, a running back coming back, wide receiver and Garrett Powell, tight end Austin Robinson. So they have pieces. Question is quarterback, and I think that's going to be the question mark for New Plymouth this year.
Yeah, the quarterback is the most key position on the field, and you have to have someone in there who is going to just seamlessly transition into that, especially if you have everyone else set up already. So, like we mentioned, offensive line is there, skill position players are there. It's up to the quarterback to orchestrate that and to get them to working as a well-oiled machine. New Plymouth, they have a great opportunity. They have a lot of all-conference players back. Can they put it together with a new quarterback?
3 all-conference linemen, Dylan Hendry, Nick Woods, Dallin Buse. Buse, a tremendous linebacker as well, just a junior, so still a little bit of youth on that team. This is a conference that's open and it has some great storylines. You talk about Melba, Juan Kalunga, the new head coach there, actually played on their state championship team. You've got Cole Valley Christian, graduated a ton of seniors, but has 2 tremendous sophomore skill players in OBG and also Brady Frame, a new head coach at Marsing. Kenny Mace coming in and telling us he loves the enthusiasm the kids have. Nampa Christian, a new head coach at Nampa Christian as well, Cassidy Cody. A lot of parity here, a lot of balance, and a lot of depth.
Yeah, and when it comes to that, if you can have depth in 2A, you're doing very, very well, because you're most of the time you're having both those players play on offense and defense. But if you have that depth there, especially once you reach the end of the season, when it's conference play, and you're getting those injuries, if you can have that depth there, that's certainly going to set you up potentially for a state tournament run, especially if that depth has been getting some experience during the year and can fit into those situations that they'll be in a nice manner.
Yeah, you can't overlook McCall.
Yeah.
McCall 7-2 last year. They brought back their quarterback Ben Knutson, tight end Caden DeLuna. The defense for the Vandals is going to be a weak spot, but I think their offense can hold it in place. Lee Leslie, a great coach. I think he can get that offense to where it needs to be to make McCall right at the top of the WIC.
And they finished second last year. They were close. They were right there.
Is that your pick to win the WIC this year, Paul?
As a matter of fact, it is. I have the Vandals, McCall Donnelly, number 1, with New Plymouth. Again, a very close second.
Mine is flip-flopped. New Plymouth first, McCall second, much like it was last year.
And I'll go with New Plymouth as my team to win it there, and I think it's a big old mess.
Yeah. Cole Valley could sneak in there.
Yeah, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 teams that are going to make it, and last year there were 3 teams vying for 2 spots going into the last week of the season. So very open conference in the 2A WIC. The 2A Canyon Conference. This one's tough. Both of them, both Declo and Wendell, will play postseason football in some manner. The play-in round, or do they go straight to the quarterfinals? Whatever the bracketing may be. So, there's really no point in us saying, okay, which 2 teams are going to the playoffs? Only 2 teams are in. You've got the perennial power in Kelly Kids Declo, and I think Keegan Duncan is a legitimate 2A Player of the Year candidate going in. You've got a Wendell team, Cody Howerton, talking to players. He played on Wendell's state championship team a few years ago.
That's cool.
Coming in, and he's trying to resurrect that program a little bit. A lot of pride and a lot of history there. But he's got some work to do, and the kids are willing to put in the work. He's willing to put in the work, but it might take a year or so.
Yeah, it might take a little bit of time, but that's okay. If you want something that's worth it, it's going to take a little bit of time, and that's totally fine. Declo, they have a very good chance to be very, very good this year. They bring back all-state running back and defensive back Keegan Duncan. They also bring back some offensive linemen who are all-state as well, Bryson Robinson and McCabe Shears. And if you've ever watched Declo play, you know that they're going to be hard-hitting. You know they're going to come after you. They're going to be aggressive, and they're going to be very, very good on offense.
And we've got the opportunity. We have a new broadcast team in that area, the Mini-Cassia area for Mini-Cassia game night. Ryan Howe, a new broadcaster for us there. So we might be picking up an extra Declo game or 2, which will be fun to watch.
Before we move off the 2A, we do want to send our best wishes to Hunter Zacharias, the young man from Wendell, involved in a serious car accident over the summer. Coach Howerton saying, we not only lost what would have been one of our top players, but just a good young man too, and the community rallying around him, and look forward to seeing him up and around as soon as possible. Those 2, Wendell and Declo, the Canyon County or the Canyon Conference game Wendell at Declo coming up on Friday, October 20th. Time now for our Toyota Going Places Turnaround Team, brought to you by your local Toyota dealer. We're looking for one team, guys. Can be anywhere in Idaho in the 2A classification that's kind of getting it turned. We're not necessarily predicting they're going to win a state championship. They're going to go from 0 wins to 8 wins or anything like that. What's your team that's just kind of turning and going the right direction?
I steal all my picks from you. You go ahead.
Melba Mustangs. They were third in the WIC last year, but like we just talked about, the WIC's stacked top to bottom. So Melba, new coach, Kalunga, like you talked about, a lot of returning young talent. And when you get a lot of returning young talent, juniors, sophomores, give them a year, give them a year with a new coach, learn the system, get comfortable, believe in that system, believe in that head coach. I think Melba's going to, they've been great. I mean, they had a great run last year. I think with a new coach coming in, heading the right direction, I think Melba, they're definitely my Going Places team.
If there was a team I could pick, and this is going to be kind of a collaboration of the last 3 seasons, you look at what Jason Taylor at West Jefferson has done. I mean, West Jefferson was a perennial doormat for several years there. He comes in and he's getting the team set up. He's getting them turned around. He comes in, they win 5 games their first year. Then the next year, I believe it was 6 or 7 games. Last year they won 6 games, went 2-2 in conference play. They have one of the hugest, I don't know if hugest is the word, one of the biggest offensive lines in the state. A few guys over 300. Is hugest a word?
Yeah, it is now.
It is now, okay. They have one of the biggest offensive lines in the entire state. Several guys over 300 pounds. They play the double wing, which is perfect for their physical skills that they have. And then you bring back all-state defensive back and running back Braxton Ramirez. I mean, he can turn upfield on a dime. He is a very quick player. Also bring back Bridger Burtonshaw. This could be the year that they turn the corner. I heard that during some spring and summer ball that West Jefferson was just creaming other teams, just going after them and just crushing them. So that could be the team that could really turn that corner even more so than they already had so far in the past couple of seasons.
I see them turning the corner sooner rather than later this year. We'll talk more about that in just a minute.
My
teaser.
Paul. My sleeper team, so to speak, my Toyota Going Places team is going to be Grangeville. I think that
good pick.
They're a team when late October and early November rolls around. I don't know that a whole lot of teams are going to be super excited to see Grangeville coming to town.
We have Grangeville this week.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's my team. We're going to take a time out here on IdahoSports.com. When we come back, the executive director of the IHSAA, the Idaho High School Activities Association, Ty Jones, shares some words with us. We'll be right back.
Save on the remaining 2017s during Toyota's National Clearance Event. Plus, every new Toyota comes with Toyota Care at no additional cost.
At Toyota's National Clearance Event, you could get 0% APR financing on a 2017 RAV4. Offer ends September 5th. Toyota, let's go places.
In the Army National Guard, you'll serve part-time to be ready to respond at all times. You'll train to master the skills and equipment used to keep the nation secure and its enemies on the run. You'll learn to be a leader and a member of a team. Become part of a time-honored tradition of vigilance and selfless service. Find your adventure at NationalGuard.com.
Back on IdahoSports.com to a preview show talking about all things 2A in the state of Idaho. And we would be remiss if we didn't thank some of the people who make this possible. Without our sponsors and supporters across the state, big and small, we wouldn't be here right now. And we wouldn't be able to bring you a lot of the games that we're able to bring you. And Paul, you were able to get a couple new partners that we think are going to really help us grow our brand here.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, we appreciate all of our advertisers from the mom and pops in the small towns all the way up to one of our major sponsors, Cable One, been with us for quite a few years. Well, we added a couple more to the Idaho Sports family this summer. Toyota. They've advertised with us. Different stores, different locations have done stuff with us. Parker Toyota up in the Coeur d'Alene area, Teton in eastern Idaho. So a lot of different Toyota stores. We got them all together, and they're now a statewide major advertising partner, going big with us because they see what we do, they appreciate it, they want to be involved. Same with the Idaho Army National Guard. They're another one of our major sponsors to come on board to help support what we do, which is bring coverage, recognition to the entire state of Idaho and the student athletes that play the sport. So many thanks to them. Project Filter, they've been with us for a couple of years, coming on for different things. they're now the sponsor of a new feature we've got, which is the Play of the Week. So every Monday we'll be putting up on the website and our YouTube channel the Play of the Week presented by Project Filter from one of our webcasts from the week before.
Looking forward to it. Idaho High School Activities Association Executive Director Ty Jones. Matt, you had a chance to talk to him earlier this week, talk about things fans do see, things maybe fans don't see in regard to high school athletics in Idaho.
That's right. I've always wondered how much the fans actually know about what the IHSAA does for our high school athletes here in the state. And I wanted to ask Ty Jones a couple of questions regarding some of those things. And so we're going to play for you a short clip from the interview that I had with him here now.
One of the hot button issues, one of the big topics, as you know, Ty, right now, is concussions in all sports, not just football. What are some of the things that the IHSAA is doing to promote safety in high school sports?
That's one of the things that we did a few years ago is we, and we'll talk specifically about fall sports because, for the most part, the vast majority of concussions, at least for us, come from football and then soccer and volleyball and then other sports after that. Wrestling's a big one too. But we revamped our practice times and the amount of hitting that we actually do, so that we could, people weren't out there just every single day doing tackling drills and those types of things. And there's more rest involved now between practices. There's a cap on the number of hours that teams can practice and how many hours they can practice in a day. Football coaches for years have been using the 2-a-day practice model. And so what we did with that is we tweaked it to where you can still have 2-a-days, you just can't have them on consecutive days. We implemented a brand new, with the help of St. Luke's, a brand new concussion video that has Idaho-specific legislation in there. Our legislature came back with some ideas and some thoughts about how what information they'd like to get out to schools. And so we added that to our concussion video, made our own, with the help of St. Luke's, and then ended up paying for a lot of the training that we had for our teachers and coaches. We added a sudden cardiac arrest course that was new last year that it's the leading killer of student athletes in the country, and not very many people talk about that. We thought that it was important that our coaches had, we know they're not doctors, but they at least need to know the signs and what to do. And we're in the process now of revamping our emergency medical plans and talking to districts about that. So we've been really busy actually with trying to give our schools and the coaches thoughts and ideas, and really it's on them, and they've done a great job a lot of them have already been doing this for years.
Another thing that seems to be a hot topic in Idaho right now is the classification system. And there was a proposal that was brought forth before the board of directors that they took very seriously regarding a change in the classification system. That ended up only being partially amended to now keeping the current system, but having a competitive equity form for schools that consistently struggle in sports. For those out there who don't know, Ty, could you explain to them kind of exactly what a competitive equity form is and how it might affect where a school falls in the classification system?
Yeah, what our board looked at, there was a two-piece proposal from the last system. One of them was, part of it dealt with free and reduced lunch numbers, and the other piece dealt with being able to, they wanted to look at ways that if you wanted to petition down, they wanted to give our board some hard facts and figures. And so they came up with a plan to where, unfortunately, these schools, if they petition down, are going to be schools that haven't had as much success over the last couple of years. And so they look at it as being an opportunity for them to maybe go down a classification to maybe jumpstart their programs a little bit and then get a little bit of success. And hopefully, success breeds more success. And then when they move back up, because then their numbers will improve, they'll have to move back up. They won't be able to petition down again because they'll be a little more successful. That'll give them the opportunity to hopefully get some more kids out. Once more kids get out, more excitement in the schools. But it's something that, like I said, you don't wish it on anybody, but those are things that, it's going to give those schools that really struggle in almost all activities an opportunity it gives them another avenue to get down a classification.
I also wanted to ask you about the change in the mercy rule. Now, last year, 5A through 2A got a mercy rule for the first time, and that has been tweaked again. Can you explain to everyone kind of what exactly the change was and how the latest change in the mercy rule is going to benefit high school football in Idaho?
Well, benefit high school football depends on who you talk to, Matt. You know how that goes. I mean, it's one of those philosophical things. The mercy rule is, personally, I think it's a good rule. It allows for schools. You're basically protecting schools from some coaches that don't do a very good job of managing their teams and the clocks as far as when they're up a whole bunch of points. So what's changed for the 3A and the 5A is that the mercy rule will start at the beginning of the fourth quarter. The 2A and the 4A games, it starts at the beginning of the third quarter. And essentially, that gives us 3 mercy rules because the 1A mercy rule is a little bit different, but it starts right after halftime as well. But each classification felt that, by doing that, and 40 points is the rule, that's the threshold, that's what they'd like to see in their school. And, once the classifications want to do that, ideally it'd be 1 mercy rule, but when you're dealing, you can't have the same one. 8-man and 11-man football teams have different logistics sometimes that just don't allow them to play by the exact same rules.
So that was part of the interview that I had with Ty Jones earlier this week, the executive director of the Idaho High School Activities Association. The full about 15 to 16-minute interview will be available on our YouTube channel and also on our IdahoSports.com homepage in the blog section. It talks a lot about the things, obviously, what you just heard, but also some of the new happenings with the IHSAA that not a lot of people may know about, Will.
Looking forward to it. Up next, the part that a lot of people love to remember. We're going to put ourselves out on the branch.
Ooh, yeah.
We're going to tell you who we think is going to win the 2A state championship here in the state of Idaho. You're watching the IdahoSports.com preview show 2A edition. We'll be right back.
Save on the remaining 2017s during Toyota's National Clearance Event. Plus, every new Toyota comes with Toyota Care at no additional cost.
At Toyota's National Clearance Event, you could get 0% APR financing on a 2017 RAV4. Offer ends September 5th. Toyota, let's go places.
In the Army National Guard, you'll serve part-time to be ready to respond at all times. You'll train to master the skills and equipment used to keep the nation secure and its enemies on the run. You'll learn to be a leader and a member of a team. Become part of a time-honored tradition of vigilance and selfless service. Find your adventure at NationalGuard.com.
Welcome back to IdahoSports.com to a statewide preview show. Will Hoenike, Matt Harris, Paul Kingsbury here, and the time of show has arrived that fans love because it either validates how great they think their team are, or it gives them every reason to tell us what morons we are. It's state prediction time, state championship prediction, brought to you by the Idaho Army National Guard. Defend what matters. 2A state champ. We're in August right now, but these things are going to live on forever on YouTube. Paul, who's winning?
Well, St. Mary's is going to come back. They lost a lot. They're the defending champions. They're going to make it back to the championship game. But so is West Jefferson. West Jefferson, we talked a little bit about. They're big, they're powerful, they're tough. They're going to get there as well, and they're going to emerge as the 2A champions this year. I pick West Jefferson over St. Mary's.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, that's good. I'm assuming you picked them as your nuclear conference champ then, too.
I did.
Is that correct?
I did.
I am not picking either of those two teams, which I think is the first time in any of these preview shows I haven't picked at least one of your teams. I am going with Aberdeen versus Declo. Aberdeen brings back a ton of experience. They're in their 4th or 5th year now under Jeff Duffin. I believe it's their 5th season now. Very well-oiled machine going up against Declo. They play really the same sort of style of offense and defense. Declo brings back Keegan Duncan. It's going to be very, very fun. I have Aberdeen winning the state title.
We've talked about, last year we did these preview shows at CUNA. This year we moved them here because Mountain View, we're at Mountain View High School in Meridian. Mountain View won the 5A state championship. And we've talked about, we're going to kind of make this a traveling road show to teams that win state championships. We're going to pick one. We're going to do these shows from the field of a champion, one of the champions. And I'm going on record right now. One of the teams in consideration for the shows next year, Declo. Get ready. Keegan Duncan, State Player of the Year. Get ready.
Wow.
Declo is in the mix
Pretty emphatic over
to
there.
host
Why don't you just
the
slam your
state
fist on the
preview
table?
shows next year. I will say this. I really like Aberdeen coming out of Eastern Idaho. I think New Plymouth is a sleeper team that can do some damage in the playoffs with that offensive line and with those running backs. Potential inclement weather, not great conditions. You've got Mauder, you've also got Gross, and a massive offensive line. New Plymouth is a team that people shouldn't be overlooking either.
It feels like there's a few different teams here. Like, you look at certain classifications.
There's about 30 of them.
There's three maybe teams that can make it to the state title game. Here it feels like there's way more, like maybe, third of the classification. This could be a sleeper team or this could be a favorite. It's open this year, but it feels really good. Now, I got to ask you, who do you think is going to play Declo in the state title game?
I'd have to look at the brackets to see exactly how the brackets break down, but, Aberdeen's a team that I could see being in that championship game. New Plymouth is a team I could see being in that championship. Obviously, I think St. Mary's returns enough talent to return to the championship game. So, to your point, I think you're right. I think we could... there are about 6 different matchups that I could write down on paper and see bracket-wise whether or not they'd work out, and not really be surprised if any of them happen.
That's what makes it great too. Is there's so much parity in 2A, and it's just fun to watch.
So there you go. Your Idaho Army National Guard defend what matters the most. Championship picks, and Declo, get ready.
West Jefferson, get ready.
Aberdeen, get ready.
All right.
So we are coming to your city.
We're driving east of here no matter what.
Most likely.
Yeah.
A lot of east in the mix, which is never a bad thing. I'm sure North Idaho's like, wait a minute, what about
we
us?
could be in St. Mary's next year.
You
never
never
know.
Like I said, we went to St. Mary's last year, so it's not like we
great.
ignore the North.
It's great, and you want to talk about scenic places to go watch a game.
Yep.
St. Mary's.
And it gets even more scenic if you turn right as you leave St. Mary's instead of left, and you end up around the lake by Harrison.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was fun. It was a good time.
That was.
Yeah.
And then we went all the way back
And then you
ended
turn
up in
around
Plummer.
and come back.
Then we went to Zips, which is always a win.
It was.
North Idaho
Yeah.
people know you eat at Zips. Plummer, when we went there, the Plummer Zips was offering free Zips for a year, and I told my wife that's reason enough for us to move there.
It really was.
She disagreed.
Who wears
Happy
the
wife.
pants? Who wears the
Happy
pants
wife,
there?
happy life.
I've heard of Zips before, and I've heard that it's really, really good. I'm going to have to freaking go there. I'm going to have to go there.
Before we get to the state championship, we got to play the regular season, which means week 1, plenty of audio-only webcasts, a ton of video webcasts, and some great ones in 2A will be coming up over the course of the season. Paul, why don't you highlight some of the big games that we have coming up early in the season?
Yeah, there on week 1, we have a ton of games. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're going to be extremely busy. Not a lot of 2A games that opening weekend, but there's going to be a lot of games in the 3As, 4As, and the 5As coming up that next week, September 1st, and then through the 9th. Grangeville versus Napa Christian. It's going to be a great matchup there. Further down into the season, we're going to see a lot more. We got Salmon coming to Coal Valley on the 9th. So, and we got Aberdeen on there as well. So, Aberdeen North Fremont, which is going to be a great game.
That's going to be a fun matchup.
So, we have the schedule up through about September 23rd. We want to schedule the first half and then get to that point, see where teams are going, and then make sure we schedule some great games for you, the viewers. So, it's going to be a good time on the IdahoSports.com game streams page.
Speaking of those viewers, Paul, 1.2 million viewers, IdahoSports.com webcast last year, and that's everything. That's state baseball, basketball, boys and girls basketball, everything we do, but 1.2 million live viewers.
It's a lot, and it's a lot of happy people. And you always get the 1 or 2, but it's a lot of 1.2 million happy people. And we love doing it. The graphic there, the top 10 games. Last year was the first year that we started doing audio for state tournaments, and it went well. It went great. And our number 1 viewed / listened to game was that 4A football championship, 19,000 listened to that game. So people got on board with it. We had a great time doing it. Will, you and I did the 3A and 1A Division II. Matt, you were involved in those championship games. So it's a lot of fun. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to add more to it. We've got new broadcast teams all over the state. We're trying to add more as we go along. So this next year is going to be a banner year for our 20th anniversary.
You want to stay tied into the IdahoSports.com Army, Matt? I totally cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's cool to be able to go to all these places, including the small schools like 2A,
love the small
1As.
schools.
I mean, it's almost more fun.
I am a small school guy. You're a Washington small school guy. I went to New Plymouth.
I'm a small school guy myself, and it's just so much. It's just so cool to be able to be a part of it, so you can bring that coverage to those kids. Because in some cases, in the smaller schools, you don't get quite as much media coverage from the mainstream media.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story about that St. Mary's game before we sign off here. But Paul, we went up there, and I told you earlier, we were literally on the back of a flatbed truck, and I know that the camera trims about 175 pounds, but I'm not the easiest guy to see around sometimes, and we were right in line of sight, so turn around, apologize, and their fans are like, it's fine, we're just glad you're here. And that's what we love to hear.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
It's fun to be a part of.
join the IdahoSports.com army, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the latest news, scores, features, photo galleries, you name it, webcast schedules, we've got it all. And also make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, where all of these shows are being hosted, one for every classification, 5A all the way down through 1A Division II. They all matter to us, and that's why they're all getting the attention. Would like to thank Sven, our producer behind the camera there, the man behind the curtain. He has been sitting in shade this whole time while we've been sitting out here getting sunstroke. We appreciate your time. For Paul and for Matt, I'm Will. We'll see you out at the fields.
This has been a presentation of IdahoSports.com Game Streams. This broadcast is copyrighted to IdahoSports.com. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or other use of this broadcast without the expressed written consent of IdahoSports.com is strictly prohibited.